Hey everyone, this podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Hi everybody!
Hello!
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched The Art of Self-Defense.
Art of Self-Defense!
Starring Lex Luthor.
Starring Lex Luthor
Lex.
and Pollux Troy.
I want you to tell me why you're here.
I'm afraid. I'm afraid of the dark. I'm afraid of other men. I want to be what intimidates me.
You came to the right place.
Wait, who's Pollux Troy?
The Sensei? He's Nicolas Cage's brother in Face Off.
Yeah. I did not fucking recognize him.
Yeah.
Weird.
He's Billy in Jurassic Park 3, Dave.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know that. Listen, big thank you to David Knife Boot Henson, who asked us to watch this movie. This movie I had not seen. Had you seen it?
Oh, yeah. I'd seen this movie a few times, actually.
Really?
I'd seen it twice before.
I thought this was going to be your first time.
Nope.
So thank you, Mr. Knife Boot, for doing this. I've been meaning to watch this because I had a feeling it was going to be good. So you've watched this a few times. I guess that kind of answers the question. But how did you like this movie?
Oh, I like this movie.
Yeah. I expected it to be it's similar to what I expected, but less annoying. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's not. I think the trailers made it look a little twee, and it's definitely, this is a black comedy. Like, this is truly a black comedy.
It's Fight Club.
Yeah, it is.
And I'm not saying that as an insult. It's actually a more efficient version of Fight Club.
Yeah.
Because it has a lot of the same stuff. It's an office guy with boring life, joining a secret club, starting to rebel, becoming a cult. Women are treated separately. There's rules that it turns out. This is all spoilers.
Self-contradictory rules.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we learn that the cult created him in the first place.
Yeah.
It's all very Fight Club without all the fucking I don't mind Chuck Palahniuk. I enjoy Chuck Palahniuk, but he often he gets carried away.
I think
with his weird storytelling where he adds all this extra shit.
Yeah,
this is like a really stripped down, efficient version of the same.
Yeah, it's like
story.
Like in Choke, where it takes this weird detour where his mom thinks he's Jesus, and
right. I love his detours, but they do.
But Fight Club, definitely the movie, less so the book, but definitely the movie, is, I think, a big reason it gets misinterpreted a lot is that it's kind of too in love with the Fight Club, because this movie, as well as Fight Club, are, they're meant to be commenting on toxic masculinity, right? At least in some degree. This movie, definitely. And that's definitely an element of Fight Club, but Fight Club is talking about a lot of different things. But
right. And I think the fear of being a victim, the fear of being weak.
Right, but it's more commenting on that fear and where that fear comes from and how it's like perpetuates itself via this toxic idea of what it means to be masculine and what it means to be strong instead of weak. I will say. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, no, you had a thought.
I was just say, I think what this movie does, I think more effectively than Fight Club, is Fight Club makes the Fight Club look too cool. Like, it makes the Project Mayhem look too cool. Whereas in this movie, you're like, oh, Sensei's a maniac. This club is bad.
Yeah, and I appreciate that the main character figures that out when kind of at the same pace we do. He's a little behind us, the audience, but not by much. And I appreciate that. I think it's ultimately also like darker.
I mean,
Like Fight Club
it's
is a
way
little
darker.
more of a cartoony version of this.
And Fight Club still. I mean, this has a happy ending too, but this is way darker.
Yeah, I will say this is the world that they create is. I would say I can't think of a better word. It's a little straw man-y, where it's like everybody's a weird bully to this guy at the beginning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where it's a little. It's not reality. His character is a little.
It's definitely not reality, and that's intentional.
Yeah. It all, the tone fits. His character's a little twee, like he's a little, the way he talks and stuff. But it works. So it begins with Jesse Eisenberg. It's in the 90s, I believe. They never date it, but everything
nobody
is about
nobody
90s.
seems to have a cell phone, and
the computers are all
the computers
90s
are old.
era.
It's all VHSs. Yeah.
Yeah. Doesn't matter. I think it just, again, they never really like point it out. It just is. I think it's probably just easier for the plot.
Yeah.
So he's just a little meek person. He goes to work and there's weird bros at his office. He has a little dog.
He has a little dog. He's friends with his boss, which is his boss is nice, but it also leads to him. He stays very, very late at the office because it's like his boss is taking advantage of that. And then we get a little bit more of that later. But like the first scene we see is him Jesse Eisenberg sitting in a diner reading a paper, eating a croissant. And then these two French people come in and order, this French couple, and they sit down and start making fun of him in French. Right. And then it cuts to him leaving and he's listening to like his 26, like it's like you finished 26 lessons of French, you are fluent in French. So he understood them.
Yeah, and it was funny because my first thought at the time was like, oh, that's weird, they could have had him like say something to them in French or something, and I realized that's the point.
That's the point.
Because the point is that no, he's not going to speak up. He's not going to say I know what you're saying, because he avoids any and all conflict.
Yes.
And so yeah, he's clearly like nervous. He's a nervous person. And then he goes out to get dog food and he is attacked by a group of motherfuckers.
Yeah.
On motorcycles.
It's a perfect way to describe them.
Yeah.
They are a group of motherfuckers.
They first go by him and they go, do you have a gun?
And he
goes, no.
That's such a perfect thing.
Yeah.
And they drive off.
It actually reminded me of a real life experience that was way less insidious. I was in New Jersey, so it's starting insidious, but I was pissing on the boardwalk, and like right on the boardwalk. I was very drunk.
Yeah, sure.
And this guy rides his bike by me, and he rides by me, and then he slowly circles around, rides by, and as he's riding by, I just hear, "You want some weed?" And I was like, "Oh. No thanks." And he's like, "Cool." And he kept going. I don't know. Anyway,
that's way more of a,
it's a way more delightful version.
Excuse the pun. That's way less of a loaded question than do you have a gun?
Yeah. It was just, I like that guy's thought process where it's just like, this guy might want weed.
He looks like he might want some weed.
Yeah. And he wasn't wrong. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, and then they circle back and they beat up Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah.
He goes to the hospital. They beat him up so bad.
Yeah, they really stomp the shit out of him.
Yeah. And so he goes to buy a gun, as one does. And the gun store owner, this is where it's like heightened reality, like the way the gun store owner talks.
Well, we've already kind of know it's heightened reality. Like, because we see him in the office first, I think, and it's like his coworkers don't behave like any normal person.
Yeah, it's like high school. Like, it's not the regular passive aggressiveness of an office. It's the direct aggressiveness.
Right. Everybody in this movie is very direct.
Yeah, and they all bully him. They tell him to fuck off or something.
Yeah.
And so he goes to buy the gun, and there's the waiting period. Mm-hmm. And so he's waiting for the gun, and he's walking on the street, and he hears karate class happening. And he goes in to watch a karate class, and he decides to actually take a karate class. He says to the guy later, or he says to somebody, "I want to become what I fear."
Yeah, he said, "I want to be I want to be what intimidates me." He says, "I'm scared of other men."
Other men,
yeah, they intimidate me.
But he doesn't tell them that at first, and so he's takes the karate class. It's like clearly something is wrong with this place. They refer to the night classes that are clearly more intense.
He walks in after he watches that karate class. He speaks to the sensei, who is Pollux Troy, Billy from Jurassic Park 3. And Sensei's a little weird, but he's like, you can come back tomorrow. And so he comes back the next day, and the first thing we see when he comes back is Imogen Poots leading a children's class, and she chokes one of the kids out.
Yes.
That's after she's telling them how to shove someone's nose into their brain. She's like, we're going to demonstrate a rear naked choke. And she chokes this kid until he passes out.
Right. It's wonderful. And so... Yeah. Again, it's like it's kind of like silly at first.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's kind of quirky, and like the way he talks is very quirky.
Yeah. Well, it's that everyone in the movie speaks very, very directly, like to a comedic effect. Yeah. They're open books about what they think.
Mm-hmm. Like when he talks about masculinity, it's very direct.
Yeah.
He's like, what kind of music do you listen to? You got to listen to something manly.
Adult contemporary. Oh, that's no good. Yeah. You need to listen to metal. Metal's the toughest music there is.
Yeah.
What kind of dog do you...
Perfect.
And he's like, well, what are some of your interests? France? Well, I've never been to France, but I like French. I like French things. He's like, no, that's no good. The French have a perception of being weak and giving up very easily. You should Russian or German. Those are strong, tough languages. Right. He's like, well, actually, my dog is German. He's like, perfect. What kind of breed? German Shepherd. It's like, no, it's a little dachshund. Okay, well, German's your thing anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, it's all very direct, and it's done in a almost humorous way, which is a good way to sort of. They do a really good at like slowly transitioning you into the darkness.
Yeah.
With that,
because it does get
it's kind of funny.
It does get pretty fucking dark.
Oh, yeah. So he, like, makes friends with this guy right away, who's very nice and supportive.
Yeah.
He becomes a yellow belt, never stops being a yellow belt, which I loved, because that's the point.
Yeah.
Is that hierarchy isn't what it appears to be, is what we're learning.
Yeah. And they
also have
even
stripes
tell you
on
that.
Their belt.
Yes, and they even tell you that right away. He meets two people that are like, there's this bald guy who's nice to him, and there's this other guy that's nice to him too, but like the other guy's part of the night classes. He's clearly like one of the better students. But I think the bald guy, one of those two guys, tells him right off the bat that different, like every studio has their own order of the belts, and some of them use different color belts. So right off the bat, they tell him that this hierarchy is meaningless. Like every studio decides it for themselves. Like there's no set metric here.
They do a very good job at when he's like, this is your belt, it is sacred. There's a $15 charge if you lose your belt. Yeah.
He gives him this whole speech, and then it ends with that. It's so perfect.
By the way, martial arts and cults do go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Like
they're very cult-like. They're very, because your sensei is kind of like a yogi type figure. It's,
Oh, there has been, like, cults that started similar.
Yeah.
That started with martial arts. Mm-hmm. So, like, like, I'm sure this is actually based off of some of that. Because, it creates a situation where you don't question things. You're not supposed to question things. There's a hierarchy, and so on and so forth. So they do this really good job at showing, like, he keeps calling things sacred, but it's like, it sure doesn't feel that way.
Yeah.
And the hierarchy is like, we're very important, but it's like, this is our own little fake hierarchy we've created.
Yeah.
They have the master who is shot hiking, and they never explain what happened, and it's like, it does feel very sketchy.
But the way he describes
shot in the face
while being like, he's so like, again, this is where like the direct specificity of the dialogue is really funny. It's where he's like, he was shot in the face while hunting because he was mistaken for a bird.
Right, and it's like, that's such a shaky fucking thing where you're like, I don't think that's what happened.
He's talking about everything he says about Grandmaster is funny as shit. He's like, he's got this rainbow belt. So he's just wearing a belt that's just all the colors. It's like, he's the only person to be awarded the rainbow belt, a color he invented himself and then awarded to himself.
Yes.
And
it's perfect.
When he says he earned the rainbow belt by defeating all the other grandmasters in the state with a technique he never taught anyone, which is he shoved his index finger right through their heads. And it doesn't make sense at first, and then we realize at the end what that means is that he actually shot the other people in the head.
Exactly. It's so good because they pay that off so well, and it's this perfect mix of we're talking about this like it's really sacred and impressive, but we made it all.
Yeah, we've made it all up.
Only person awarded this belt that he made
that
and
he
awarded
invented
to himself. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Like it's because again, what really works is that it brings to mind like Napoleon Dynamite when he goes to the karate class, where like we kind of regard karate classes as kind of being funny.
Yeah.
And there's nothing there's nothing wrong with taking karate. We just in our pop culture we do that. And what's interesting is that the way we find it funny is also how cults work, which is just people who are really convinced of their own bullshit.
Yeah.
Your Steven Seagal types,
Yes.
where it's like, again, like it's not really like it's probably not fair to karate, but like there's just a lot of crossover there, and we take comedy from it. And which so like I guess that's what this movie seems aware of that. And so it uses that to kind of blindside you into realizing slowly, no, this is a cult. Because at first these all seem like just jokes that serve that idea of like, oh, these guys just think they're hot shit.
Mm-hmm.
They make up I killed a guy with my fingers, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So he becomes a yellow belt. And I forget at what his first class is teaching how to punch with your foot
and kick with your fist. That's the funniest through line. Later, Sensei has one of his students go in and kill his dachshund so he can replace it with a German Shepherd, a more manly dog. And when he takes the dog to the vet, he's like, it's the strangest thing. I know for a fact, like my medical knowledge is telling me this dog was killed with a punch, but the bruise is in the shape of a foot.
That is, that I will say, that is very funny. It is definitely pushing the limit of the movie. That idea that the vet would know that pushed the movie a little bit to the limit for me.
I don't think it was
Whereas,
it's
a joke. It's a funny idea, but it serves as exposition too.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't think a vet would know that.
Well, I mean,
like that's the joke, sort of. Why would the vet be like, this is definitely a punch? But like he'd see the foot marks and go, no, he was kicked.
This is not. I think it. I see what you're saying, but I don't. It didn't land on me the same way because the movie lets you know pretty quickly that it's a heightened reality, and it continually reinforces that.
Oh yeah, but that like I said, it hits the limit for me. Like it didn't quite cross the limit.
Yeah,
but it like grazed it. Whereas like that changes like because people talk weird. But like the world is grounded in like the same science and medical stuff as us. And so it was just really silly that a vet would say that and think that.
I mean, he kicks a tire so hard it pops.
Oh, that's
like
true,
there's stuff, impossible things happen.
Yeah, that's still just like that almost crossed the line.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
But it was a funny payoff.
Yeah, it's a solid payoff, and it, like you said, it's also exposition. So, ironclad script.
But yeah, we soon learn, like for example, the only woman is a brown belt, soon to be a black belt. It seems, but they make it very clear she's never going to be a black belt.
And he was, and then he finally just tells him. Like Sensei's like, she's never going to be a black belt because women aren't strong. Karate's not for women. And it's funny, but it's also talking about hierarchy and how bullshit it is and how it's not based on merit because she's clearly the best student.
Right.
He promotes his stick man, basically, this guy Thomas, who's the guy that kills Jesse Eisenberg's dog. And then she beats Thomas almost to death later on in that class. And it's like, she says
she's
like,
clearly,
the character says I was proving a point, but it's enforcing the idea.
She's clearly way more capable, but they treat it like she's this attractive woman who's like clearly the most capable. And I love the part where he they do the cool down, and the guys all just strip naked, and he's like, I don't want you to do the cool down with them right now because you're new. So he brings her to the locker room with the woman, and he's like, I'm sorry, you're going to have to get a massage from this woman.
Yeah,
I know her hands are too weak. They're not as weak as a man's hands. Yeah. And it's like, it's very funny that, that
later
like,
on,
I'm
when
sorry you have to be half naked with this very attractive woman. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, he's such a Martian about it, and it's like later in the movie when Jesse Eisenberg confronts him about a lot of the things, and he's like, why didn't you promote her? She's clearly the best. He's like, well, she's never going to be a black belt because women are weak. There's no place in karate. He's ignoring the fact that she is clearly the strongest and the best, and it's like, well, she can't ever be the strongest and the best because she's a woman. And then he starts rattling off like, don't get me wrong, women are good. There's some things you have to do with women, like riding a tandem bicycle or having sex.
It's just the two, riding a tandem bicycle and having sex, and it was perfect. And then he's like, the bicycle you do for them, and the sex is for you, or something like that.
Something like that, yeah. He says the bicycle's for them and the sex is the other way around.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's his. So, he's a fucking perfect character. Everything he says is incredible.
Yeah, because it's also putting up, like, the idea that cult leaders tend to be funny, Like, cults are funny when you actually start, like, reading about what happened. You're like, this is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. But it's also showing what happens when people start to actually manifest that bullshit. So it's not just that they're accepting the bullshit, they're making that bullshit a reality, which is when the movie segues into showing that they're doing like fucking violence, like street violence.
Yeah. Basically what happens is he explains to him why he's there, and he says, I don't want to be a victim anymore, and that's when he's like, I want you to take the night classes.
Yeah.
And the night classes are when it goes from funny to dark, because so the night classes, you have on your belt, a black strip signifies it.
Yep. And
the guy that he first met, who was very friendly, thought he was going to be in the night class and doesn't get to be. And so Jesse Eisenberg shows up, invited to the night class, and then the other guy shows up, not invited. So, the sensei immediately is like, I'm going to demonstrate something. Here, come up here. And he gets the guy who wasn't invited. He breaks his arm. He snaps his elbow, and he's like, I don't want to ever see you here again.
Yep.
And so that's when like, okay, this is some real shit.
And then that guy later hangs himself.
Yes, he does. He sure does.
Mm-hmm.
And then it starts getting really intense, and he calls him. He's also, Jesse Eisenberg is an accountant. So, like, that comes into play where he's like, I want you to be the accountant for here, because Jesse Eisenberg is getting changed by all this, and punches his boss in the throat.
Yep.
And starts acting more manly, starts doing the listening to metal.
Acting more like Sensei's idea of manly, which is just he's becoming this irrationally aggressive, violent person.
Right. At one point, he's like, I'm sorry, I haven't been in control of my emotions. The Sensei's like, oh, that's good. No, that's really masculine.
That's really masculine.
He tells his dog he's not going to coddle the dog anymore by petting him.
Yeah.
And so this is where he's buying into it. And then he gets a call that's like, I found one of the guys who attacked you. Come to this bar. And they go there, and he's like, see, that's his motorcycle over there. And Jesse Eisenberg's clearly not sure of it, but he finally does it, and he assaults the guy in the parking lot. The guy cracks his head.
Yeah.
Doesn't die, but is like really fucked up. Turns around to see Sensei is filming it.
Sure is.
And that's, big old, he might as well be waving a red flag. And then he assures him he did the right thing. He leaves. Jesse Eisenberg picks up the guy's keys and realizes that he was going to unlock a bicycle, not the motorcycle that's parked near. So it's not even the right guy. And so the Sensei more or less like immediately starts using that to blackmail him. Jesse Eisenberg finds out his dog was killed and like immediately confronts him. And this is what I liked. I liked that they didn't make him like stay meek about it. Like he's like, fuck this.
No, he is changed by this. Like he is a different person now.
Yeah, he confronts him and he's like, yeah, you killed my dog. And he's like, I was with you. And then he sort of blackmails him.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's hard. This is a hard line to walk because part of me was like, yeah, he could go to the police at any time.
But he doesn't want to. He believes in this new culture.
Right. That's the interesting part, that it hadn't even occurred to me until the ending, because he seems like he's really he's like, fuck this. But he's just mad at the sensei.
He's just mad at sensei.
He likes that karate made him not scared anymore.
Yeah.
And he's essentially standing up to the most scary guy.
He's standing up to the entrenched toxicity, like the systemic issue here, which is sensei.
Right. He's learning to stand up for himself so that he can do this.
Yeah.
Which is it's a good idea.
It's a good idea, yeah.
And so he goes there, he finds the tapes. He's like selling the equivalent of Faces
bum
of
fights.
Death.
It's Faces of Fists. Yeah, it's just him. They see people, it really is just Project Mayhem. They see people that they think they can quote unquote help by beating the Christ out of them, and they're like, well, they'll come out the other side of this a changed person. Their life will never be the same. We're giving them the tools to either change their life or double down on this terrible life that they've chosen for themselves. So either way, we're giving them the tools by doing this. This is a good thing. But he films all these attacks and sells them as videotapes. He also uses them to blackmail former members to keep giving them money.
Perfect cult stuff.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, it's a grift. It's always a grift.
It's a grift, yeah.
And it should be noted that they go on one of those motorcycle outings pretty early on, before he's like, well, like kind of in between when he confronts him.
It's not that early on.
I just mean early on okay, yeah. And they go out and there's an undercover cop and they, I think, kill him.
They do. They do the thing
because he shoots the lady.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse Eisenberg fucks him up.
They drive by him, and Sensei doesn't want to take her, because she's a woman. But she's like, you need me. Like I can drive, and Jesse Eisenberg can be the runner. You don't have enough people. You need me. So he takes her with. But they do the thing. Like, they don't do what they did to Jesse Eisenberg first. They don't ask the person if he has a gun. So they get off the bike to attack him, and he pulls out his gun and shoots her in the leg. And then Jesse Eisenberg beats him to death.
Right.
It just straight up beats him to death. Like, it's not a gag. They don't. He just kills a guy.
No, and he learns later that the guy was going to beat him to death.
The guy was a cop.
And No. When he was beaten.
Oh yes,
in the similar way.
They were going to murder him when he was attacked, and they decide not to at the last minute because
she saves him because she says, "My woman ears can hear the cops.
My women ears
can't hear it."
The sirens coming.
Yeah, she uses his bullshit against
him.
Essentially.
Yeah, and his own contradictory rules, like the rules on the wall of the dojo, are like. There's an 11th rule tacked at the bottom. It says guns are for cowards, but it was very clearly tacked on.
Yeah.
So it's like another hint that he kind of knows Grandmaster murdered everybody. And it's also kind of a subtle hint that maybe he murdered Grandmaster.
Yeah, exactly.
On the hunting trip.
Right. And it is very Project Mayhem. It's the scene where Tyler Durden just like holds that guy at gunpoint.
Yeah, it's that.
Like that's their baseline. Yeah. And which again, it's Fight Club without the bells and whistles, where they're like, no, they're just beating people up on the street.
Yeah.
And calling it changing their lives for the better.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's perfect.
The point that I was going to make is one of the rules that they point out, that it's actually one of the first rules that Sensei highlights on the first class that Jesse Eisenberg goes to is if it works, use it. So it's like right off the bat they're showing us that they have all these rules, but they contradict themselves. Like, if it works, use it, but guns are for the weak. It's like, well, a gun works, and that's what he says to him at the end after he shoots him. He's like, well, you would call me weak, and maybe you'd be right, but I'm alive and you're dead, so I think you're weak.
Yeah. Yeah, because the movie telegraphs this a lot, and there was no way getting around it, which is that the gunster calls back, and he's early on when he's like drinking the Kool-Aid, he's like, I don't need a gun anymore. And the guy's like, okay, well, it's here for 6 months if you want it. And I was like, oh, he's totally going to get that gun. And so the end is he goes to find the tapes with like the bum fights of him getting beat up.
Yep.
The grift. He finds that the guy has hung himself in there.
Yes.
And he goes in the back and finds that there's a big fucking oven for cremating bodies and like surgery tables.
The karate studio is a crematorium. Like that back room, it has a slab for,
but it's like the darkness of like, God damn, what has been happening here?
The back room is just a crematorium, and he finds out at first, like his buddy tells him, "Oh, the red stripe is for if you've taken a life," and then he's like, "No, I'm just kidding."
Someone says that's a joke.
I'm just kidding. It's for instructors. So then later on, he finds out that it actually is for taking a life.
Right. He's talking to the lady, and he's like, "Because it's an instructor," and she's like, "No, that's for taking a life.
That's for killing." Yeah. Well, Sensei says it. He's like, "Yeah, no, that's for killing somebody." Yeah, it's like, no, instructors don't get stripes. Like it's the most ridiculous thing he's ever said.
Yeah. And again, the stripes are actually what matters. He never stops being a yellow belt. I really love that he keeps going up the ranks, but his belt stays the same. Yeah. Because that's not actually what matters.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah. It's
the
just
actual karate doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's the point of the ending, which is that the sensei shows up, he cleans, he gets rid of the body. Jesse Eisenberg, who's been there the whole night, shows up and he's like, "I'm gonna kill you. I want to fight you to the death." And they both get dressed in their gis. They go into the mat. They bow, and then Jesse Eisenberg just shoots him in the face.
He sure does.
It's what, again, you know it's coming, but it's so well done. It's so funny.
It's perfect. It's blunt. Perfect. Yeah.
Yep. And then and basically he says to him like, "Yeah, I'm dead and you're not." And then he sticks his finger in the wound. And then in the morning, the students come, and he's like, "I did the finger thing on him.
I poked my finger through his skull and killed him."
Yep, now I'm in charge. And things are going to go a little differently. And then he takes out his German... This also felt silly. The dog stuff felt a little silly. Because he takes out the German Shepherd and uses it to maul the guy who killed his dog.
Yeah.
Which felt abrupt.
It's abrupt. I think it was another... It's another version of how the sensei's rules are contradictory and arbitrary and ultimately don't matter. Because like he says, your dog is weak, but it's partially okay because it's got a German name, but your dog is weak. But he identifies the student who killed his dog because his supposedly weak dog bit him. And then with the German Shepherd is kind of dumb and sweet. Like the shots you see of the German Shepherd, it's behaving the exact same way as his dachshund. Like it's just looking at the camera very sweetly. When he gives it its kill order, it walks the wrong direction. So he has to like correct it. It's like, no, your other left. So I think that was the point of that.
Yeah, I do think you could take away all the dog stuff from this movie.
You could have.
Yeah, I think I don't know. It's still a lot of fun, but and so it basically is him like, I'm going to be in charge now, and as implied, it's probably going to go out of hand again. I don't know. But it's a really...
Well, he's only in charge for about 3 minutes.
Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen. Oh, yeah, and he puts her in charge.
Because he immediately puts her in charge, yeah.
But, like, it's still, like, you don't know. It's the whole idea is the senseis keep shooting each other.
Yeah.
That's the film for anybody who hasn't watched it and is listening for some reason.
He puts her in charge, and she says, okay, things are going to be different now. We were taught that compassion is weakness and aggression is strength. And she's like, that's limiting, and that's wrong, and it's limiting.
Right. Because that is the thing missing, and that's the big red flag from the start. And I don't know, I've never taken karate, but I feel like if you go into an adult karate class and you pick up on this aspect, it's the red flag, which is that at no point are they told. He talks about guns being sloppy, boorish, and he's like, we're precise. That's the extent of it. He never talks about the idea of don't use this for anything but self-defense. It's never about that.
No, it's never about self-defense.
It's never about don't prey on the weak. That is not a rule. And that's the red flag from the start, which is that we're learning karate to bully people.
To be bullies, yeah.
Yeah. To start fights, to assault people, to punch a dog. You know, like that's what it's about. And then the belt symbolizing like hierarchy really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It is all bullshit.
It's whatever
like the
we
actual
say
karate.
it is.
The actual karate is bullshit.
Yeah.
Like yes, they use karate, but like they could have just been going around hitting people with clubs.
With a pipe. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah. And so it's just the perfect allegory for a cult where it's like the core idea of what they claim to believe in is so flimsy ultimately.
Yeah.
And then the added, like, yeah, he's just a grifter. He's just selling tapes on the internet.
Yeah, he's just some
or
scumbag.
in the mail.
Yeah, he's doing
Yeah.
a very low concept blackmailing operation. It's not
he's a very
complicated.
simple man.
He's a very simple criminal. Yeah.
And I liked that they open, like, when he goes there to open before he gets shot, they show him, like, cleaning the bathrooms and, like, like vacuuming, because it's like, yeah, he doesn't even have that much money. He doesn't have anybody to help. He's just some fucking loser.
Yeah, he's a loser who runs a strip mall karate studio out of an old crematorium.
Yeah. That he's managed to make this weird low-level cult where they go around assaulting people. So, yeah, very interesting movie.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. I'd say I do have some critique. I do think little things, which is like... And these aren't big critiques. Like, he happens upon the karate class.
Yeah.
And it's like...
It's a lot of
Is the
coincidence. It's a lot of coincidence.
Yeah, but that might be the point, is that they might not... I don't think they assume the people they beat up are going to come to them, and that's why he's kind of... Like, I feel like he's kind of impressed by him at first, or curious, and I think it's that, because he's like, shit, that's the guy we beat up.
Yeah.
Like, it's not... I don't think it is a grift where they beat people up for them to come to them for karate.
No, it's the Project Mayhem arm. It's giving them a reason to believe in the random assaults and crimes that he's committing, because he's stealing their... Because what he's really doing is making his videos.
Right. He's using that as an excuse. Yeah. I guess it's more like the heightened reality stuff is the stuff that I'm like, I didn't mind it, but I don't think I needed it. It's actually maybe not actually, because like the whole joke with like it's almost Napoleon Dynamite-esque at first with the karate. That only works if it's a heightened reality, I think.
Yeah, and I think also having it be in this heightened reality where everybody speaks very directly and specifically really points out how absurd it is. Like the idea, like the way he defines masculinity. It's all true. And what he's saying is not, it's true in terms of like these are the things that people are considered to be masculine, like in the toxic definition of it.
Right.
So by just saying, it's like the South Park episode about Scientology. We're just saying the thing that it is, but the fact that we're doing it in this way really highlights how stupid it is.
Yeah. And I guess I do appreciate that, because this movie isn't trying to hide its messages. Again, it's way more efficient than a movie like Fight Club, which is its own film, obviously.
Yeah, Fight Club's about a lot of stuff. That's a good film.
Yeah, but this is a very similar movie. It's got a lot of similar beats, including the shooting at the end. And then, like, kind of taking control. It's a little more ambiguous in Fight Club.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there was something about this movie that felt a little off, I guess, but I'm starting to think I can't really define what that is, and I mostly just like really enjoyed the movie and kind of want to leave it at that.
Yeah. No, this is the third time I've seen it. It's a movie that I enjoy more every time I watch it.
Yeah, it's one of those where it's like Jesse Eisenberg is the kind of actor where like his mainstream stuff usually bugs the crap out of me, and then whenever I see him in something like this, he's great.
Yeah, it's a reminder that he's very good at the thing that he does.
Yeah, and I think what it is that the thing that he does is not playing a leading man or heroic person.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that this is the kind of movie he should be in, because he doesn't play a particularly likable person.
No, but he does. There is a way you can play a character like this that's very that's very unsubtle and not good. And I think what movies like this and, to a lesser degree Adventureland, because Adventureland has a similar growth for the character, but it's more about it's very, very Adventureland's a very, very grounded film. But there's an obvious way to play this kind of character, but I like that Jesse Eisenberg, because he's a good actor, is able to do a very nuanced version of this character.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that adds a lot to it.
Yeah. It's very incel at first, or at least it feels like that's where they're going with it. But again, they don't really do that.
Not really. It's so...
It's not... They do a good job with the thing that Fight Club runs into in a lot of movies at that time, which is like, look at this miserable white guy with a good job. And it's more... It's not about society. Like, I think that's what it is. They don't try to open it up to like, ooh, society and jobs are bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's more about what fear can do to a person and what they can turn to.
Yeah.
And how someone could become part of something like
right.
this.
It's more. Yeah. It's more about how. Well, it's not more about, but it's when in its exploration of the effects of toxic masculinity. Definitely, one thing this movie is talking about is how the toxic masculinity drives people to be indoctrinated by stuff like this, or drives people to be radicalized by stuff like this.
Yeah, and it does so that it's ever present in society. Mm-hmm. Everything's very exaggerated, but I think that's just because it's a movie.
Yeah,
and it needs to be kind of exaggerated to make its point. Like, you know, again, everybody who interacts with him, it seems like in public, are assholes, or that we see, like the guy who dings his car and stuff like that.
But even that guy is like kind of funny.
Yeah,
he's like, you karate, impossible. And he just walks away.
Right. Because again, it is a funny movie.
Yeah.
It's just very dark comedy.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
There's no real like jokes. There's funny, like him punching the boss in the throat. Very funny.
It's more about situations and just the way things are said is very funny. Yeah, but there's not a whole lot of like straight up gags, really.
Yeah. I guess I could see the way things are said bothering some people. Because it's borderline twee. It really is.
But it's
like the way people talk is, but it's so uniquely dark, and the story really saves it from that. Because it takes like the first 30 minutes, it took a little getting used to. And then I just stopped thinking about it because I liked the story.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those films where I started taking notes and then I stopped taking notes because I was like, oh, I'm just watching this now. I also think it works in this film because the intent is more clear, and it's clear that there is an intent behind it. Yeah.
Whereas in a lot of other movies that use that could be accused of having twee dialogue, it's really just for the sake of being quirky.
Right. It does hide the insanity. Like, it reminds me of, weirdly enough, Stu in Scream, where like Matthew Lillard is playing it as like this radical, weird, cool dude. Who's over the top, and then you realize, oh no, he's unhinged.
Yeah, he's a maniac.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so at first you think like it's just a bad team movie performance.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh no, he's just out of his goddamn mind.
He is legitimately out of his mind. He's a murderer.
So like that style, it really masks something in the movie where, like, you know, I at least knew this was going to get dark because I just sort of knew that about this movie. But if you weren't watching it knowing that, you probably might be like, you'd probably be blindsided by it.
You'd get lulled into the Napoleon Dynamite beats, and then as soon as he breaks that guy's arm, it's like a perfect, because it comes at like right at the halfway point when he breaks the guy's arm.
Yeah, and it signifies like, this this guy, like the things he's saying, he means it.
Yeah.
This is out of control.
Yeah, this is out of control. Yeah,
good film.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah. I enjoy it a lot.
It.
Excited for this person's next film, which is it's called Dual, Dual. Has Karen Gillan in it. She's a woman who has some sort of terminal illness, so she decides to make a clone of herself and train her clone to replace her. But then she makes a miraculous recovery, but there's Logan's Run rules in this universe that a clone and its original can't exist at the same time, so they have to fight to the death. That's this guy's next movie.
That's so weird. I will say
this writer-director is the guy that was married to Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and then that whole thing with Ewan McGregor happened.
Oh no shit.
Yeah.
This person's career could go either way, in my opinion, because that, like, all this style, this borderline twee works really well for this story. If it rolls over into their next films, it might not be as fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we'll see. This is that moment, you know, because this is they killed it with this movie. They killed it.
Yeah.
And so there's no reason to think they won't do good in later movies. But this movie is very uniquely fitting for what the story it's telling. It's that the style. It's the thing where the specific style of filmmaking was unique to the story being told, and that's what made it work for me. And if they make other movies in the same style, they have to choose the right stories. Kind of like Wes Anderson. Like Wes Anderson can't tell any story with his style. It just doesn't work. So he sticks to very specific types of stories. I don't know. I'm very curious about what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Oh, and they also made a movie called Faults.
Yeah, I was looking at that one. It's described as a psychological thriller dark comedy from the producers of The Guest and You're Next.
Oh, interesting.
And it stars Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Leland Orser, who's briefly in this movie.
It's about a cult.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So they like cults.
Yeah.
Weird.
I think I'm done. I don't have anything else to say.
Yeah. I'm pretty done. I'm pretty sweaty. Hey, David Knifeboot Henson, thank you so much. I was getting around to this movie at some point, but I'm glad you sort of rushed it. I'm glad I got to finally watch it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's on.
I recommend it. People should watch it.
It's on Hulu. It's just on Hulu if you have Hulu.
Yeah. This was through our Patreon. If you're interested, you can go to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We have exclusive podcasts on there, like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder's a Maniac, Star Trek The Next Futurama. Those are all available for $5 a month.
What?
Yeah. No shit.
It's a steal.
It's a steal.
You're robbing us.
You're robbing us. You're wearing motorcycle helmets and you're robbing us in the street.
You're kicking the Christ out of us, spilling our dog food everywhere. We also have a store. Head on over to gamefullyunemployed.com where we have the link there. It's a complicated link to our Teespring page where you can get all kinds of t-shirts, shit. I don't know. Do we have the same stuff at this store?
Yeah. I think we more or less have the same
masks,
stuff. There might be a few
posters and shit. Yeah.
I know we have posters and shirts. I think there was a mask option. I think we do have masks, or at least the one about pegging.
Yeah, we have a mask about pegging on Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's grave that you should definitely pick up.
Yeah, absolutely.
As long as you're robbing us.
Yeah, Tom, let's start a cult.
I think we have.
But
let's
we're
go
not
all the
following
way.
through.
Let's go all the way. Yeah, our follow through could use some work.
Yeah, let's get to the next phase.
Yeah, it's time to take this to the next level.
All right, you all know what to do. Now,
do it.
1, 2, 3. Now, do it. All right. I hope they did it.
You better.
Yeah.
They know it's good for them.